everybody. Welcome to the Fool Do podcast for NFL Week 9. My name is James Gale. You can find me on Twitter at GoJPG.
And I'm Ivan Lovegren on Twitter, on FanDuel, and on DraftKings at Watch the Breaks.
Yeah, I should have said that. That's my name on FanDuel and DraftKings as well.
That's not my name.
So yeah, that's my name. This is our third podcast. We're at number 3, folks. So I'll just try to get it. Yep, squirt the Gatorade. We're right in the thick of it. We've got a routine going down. So
yes, we do. And systems. We're creating systems.
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
Systems for how to lose.
It's fun. We've been having a good time on DFS. How have you been doing on DFS?
I've been having fun.
Okay, good.
I did okay last week on DraftKings. I went Dolphins over Patriots with my Thursday lineups, and you know how we like to fade Thursday. We don't even talk about Thursday. I should have taken that advice because my few double ups and triple ups that I did Sunday, Monday did great. I won 3 of them. 2 of my 4 tournament entries turned quarter profit. I played 4 tournament quarters, so I broke even there really. But I lost like $15 this week because I played Jarvis Landry in the Dolphins defense.
Bummer.
Yeah, but hey, if you did play that Thursday game, if you played the Patriots, you were happy. So
yeah, I benefited in season-long leagues from the Patriots. My good old Julian Edelman is so great. But I did okay. I was saved on FanDuel. I had an entry, $2 single entry tournament, and I finished 301 over 71,000. So I got $25.
Nice.
It was 30 on Monday, but then I fell back to 25 because I didn't have a piece of Monday night.
You got to make sure you screenshot that and edit that in. I want to see that lineup.
I will. Well, I can tell you about it right now. It's because I had Drew Brees in that lineup, and he went off for me.
Who you highly recommended, and I thought, and I had enough money to play one flyer, and that was in that quarter league, and I went with a Mettenberger flyer instead of a Brees flyer.
I actually moved. I had Mettenberger in this lineup, and then moved off of him. But I had a dud in the lineup. I had James Jones, and he scored 0.7 points.
Yeah,
so I could have finished so much higher if I would have just. And 6,200, there were so many other receivers. But oh well. So he saved my week because I lost all my double ups because Andy Dalton was in my double up lineups.
Yeah, that killed me in my tournaments. Would have gone a little bit higher if Keenan Allen hadn't gotten knocked out after a pretty good game already. But then,
lacerated his kidney.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I actually love DFS. And of course, our disclaimer: we do this with our entertainment budget. It is gambling. Your money is at risk. And if somebody that you know and love or yourself has a problem gambling, do seek help. Don't be ashamed to ask for it. We look at this as an entertainment spend. We're always counting it a loss. Where was I going before that? Oh, Keenan Allen. Oh, yeah, that is one reason I love DFS over season-long fantasy football, though, because I saw all these people, oh, man, my fantasy. It's like a human just got his spleen lacerated. You know, in DFS, it sucks for a quarter for you, for your money, but, like, it's great because I can just, okay, that lineup is out, whatever. I hope he's okay. So I'm glad to say that that's something I like about DFS, and we do hope nothing but the best for him because that is a serious life injury. That's different.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Knees and
really
legs
terrible.
And stuff. So, but yeah. So in our head-to-head in FanDuel, that was the only thing I did on FanDuel this week was our head-to-head, and I got smoked.
Yeah, 175 to 127.
Yep, I am the fool in that duel.
And let's see, your lowest point scorer was Tyler Eifert at 5.9 points, and we both had him.
And my best point scorer was Justin Tucker, my kicker.
And the funny thing is I had Danny Woodhead, who scored 5.5 points, which was my lowest score. But I also
which makes him, well, we'll get into that when we get to that matchup.
I had Eli Manning and Odell Beckham, which accounted for, let's see, that'd be 73 points total.
Yeah.
So that helped me
Julio
quite a bit.
Plus Julio Jones.
And Brandon Cooks.
Julio Jones is your third highest scorer, and he's higher than anyone on my team.
Yeah.
I had Phillip Rivers at 24.04, which was
Good play. I mean,
good
24
play.
points isn't bad.
Gurley had a good day at
Yeah.
22.1.
And I
But then
faded him.
Chris Johnson, Keenan Allen, Nate Washington, that play was actually good. And somebody got on Twitter and was ripping me. Oh, how can you say, look, DeAndre Hopkins scored more than him? DeAndre Hopkins did score more than him. 3 more points for, what was it, 4,000 more in salary? That's not worth it. That's not worth it. Not when you
Yep.
can spend that money at other places. The whole goal is to balance the value spent with the each point costs.
Yeah.
So if your points are costing you $700 a point versus $400 a point, look at it. Nate Washington is 5,400 to 15.4. That's literally $300 a point. That's great. Versus
Oh, yeah.
what would it be for DeAndre? 92 for 17 or 18. Because you don't get the. I'm a DraftKings guy, so I know that with the boost, and DeAndre actually, I don't think he hit the 100-yard boost either, so that would have made a difference. And Chris Johnson in DraftKings at least hit the $100 boost. In FanDuel, he did not, so he got me 6.9 points. Justin Tucker got me 20 points, but
Yeah. Hey, go Kickers.
not when Blair Walsh got you 13. So that means there's only a 7-point differential there
That's
versus
pretty good.
Yeah, but I'm just throwing out a bunch of numbers now. Moral of the
Sure.
story: James creamed me 175.1, which is enough to place in a lot of tournaments, isn't it?
Yeah, that's close to what I got. That's pretty much just like my Breeze lineup that got $25.
Yeah.
If I
You
would have
didn't
done
play
that,
this lineup in any other.
no, I wish I would have in my other single entry because this was the $2 single entry where I won 25, and then my $1 single entry busted. I think I probably had Mettenberger, somebody,
Yeah.
a bad play.
So
But
then in
yeah,
our DraftKings head-to-head, I beat my brother in head-to-head. By the way,
there you
the
go.
lineup I played against him scored 170.34,
Which would have beaten me.
which would have beaten you. But instead, I scored 132.3. And again, this is somewhat because of injuries. I
Your
had
gamble, yeah.
Matt Forte and Keenan Allen both in there, so they both got their days cut short. The Tyler Lockett gamble play. Yeah,
Yep.
didn't do much for me.
And I had those same receivers pretty much for although I had Odell Beckham in our, and then I had the Eli to Odell in FanDuel, and then I had Andy Dalton to AJ Green in our matchup on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And Andy Dalton was terrible, but AJ Green was good. And again, Danny Woodhead, rough day for Danny Woodhead, but I was still able to squeak it out. Boy, I'm surprised you didn't score more. Well, Brian Hoyer. But again, I
Yeah.
had Dalton.
Hoyer had a great second half. Every second half, he puts up great numbers. First half, just couldn't get nothing going.
It was my receivers again that carried me because I had a lot of low point bad plays. Crockett Gilmore got in the end zone, but that's it.
Yeah, he had some more targets too, so
Mike
still not a
Evans.
bad play for the price, But he is according to my value chart, but
Yeah.
that's different. But yeah, then Matt Forte getting 10.9 points. I did the Gurley Rams handcuff did work really well. The Rams scored 12, which is good for a defense, and Gurley got 26.6. Including some late rushes. Tavon Austin, I don't know if I mentioned that I liked him, but I think I had him in some other lineups. Or no, I had him on my season long, but he had a really good game and was really cheap going in. So keep an eye on him this week. But yeah,
We'll
so
get to him.
speaking of keeping an eye on things, what is the strategy for the week? What's your strategy, James? What are you thinking about? What are you targeting?
I'm thinking about what games I'm playing and how to not be a fool playing daily fantasy sports. And I think what happens to a lot of people, it happened to me the first time I played
We need to get
DFS.
Mr. T on here.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
he'll pity you. He'll pity
Yeah.
both of us.
He'll pity both of us.
Yeah. But just
but-
you this last week.
Yeah.
With those losses. So the first game I ever played, and I mentioned this before, was the $25 Millionaire Maker on FanDuel. And it was an NBA game. And I went in and just kind of picked players that I like. I'm a Timberwolves fan, so I had to have Andrew Wiggins in there. And he did okay that night, but it just I didn't know what I was getting into. Because daily fantasy sports and the way you play it and the way the pros play it is extremely different than the fantasy leagues you would normally play with your friends, with your coworkers. And so I mean, I handed that money right over to some guy using Watson and an algorithm to enter 1,000, or well, it was $25 game, so probably 100 lineups.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. So my advice is to know the game you're playing. And the problem with FanDuel and DraftKings is they don't offer that many single entry GPPs, which is the lottery play I'll play. I'm not going to enter any more multi-entry GPPs because you're just mostly handing over your money to a shark is what they're called. They're called the pro players. And I read an article recently, and I'm going to get the two numbers wrong, but it's about this is 95% of the winnings in DFS is won by 5% of the player pool. Although I think it's even more. I think it's 97 is won by 3% or something like that. Most of the winnings in these DFS games are going to people that have an algorithm and the means to enter thousands of lineups. Mm-hmm. And the most publicized games are the games that they can win in because it's multi-entry. They do the low volume, high entry approach. So like it costs less money, but they can enter 1,000 lineups. I was looking through the NBA games last night. I just wanted to see if any overlay would happen. So I just sat and left the browser up while the games were filling. And I watched an NBA lineup go from 5,000 of a 17,000 to go from 5,000 entries to 17,000 entries in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think 12,000 people, unique people, are entering that contest in 15 minutes?
No, it's
yeah.
You know, and I looked at some of the tournaments I was in this week, and I saw the guy right ahead of me at one point when I was doing well, had 100 of the same entry in there.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and the guy's a pro. And so if your tournament is paying out, you know, the top 6,000, that's 60 pros.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
Exactly.
Like you're not playing the average fan, you're playing 60 pros.
And so that's why when I play these lottery games where it's a high amount of entries, anybody could win, the prize at the top is very high, I like to play the single entry GPP because it gives you one entry. And that's something like if you were to ever talk to a pro or meet a pro, ask them what their record is in single entry GPP games. Mm-hmm. It's probably not as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
And like,
I'd say it's good. But
yeah.
Think about the fact that they're not winning. You know, it's not 100 25-cent quarters winning all the $25 slots in that game.
Yeah.
You know, it's one 25-cent quarter winning one $25 slot. Mm-hmm. You know, so that means there's 99 more $25 slots for you to get into.
Yeah.
So their percentage is probably as good. Their overall winning return, you know, if you look at 25 to, you know, their 25 is turning $25, not 25 cents times 100 is what, $25 turning $250 or 25,000.
So what we're really
we're
just trying to say is if you're a new player and you're very enticed by winning $1 million, it's not going to happen. It really is not going to happen. You really have to put time and money and effort into winning $1 million on these websites.
Yeah. It's all about, unless you're literally throwing darts and Zach Mettenberger sets an NFL record.
Yeah. Or who was the big non-play last week that nobody played?
Well, Breeze was.
Yeah, I mean Breeze. But I mean people would play him.
Turn in 60 points in fantasy football. That's
pretty good.
Ridiculous.
So, if you're a new player and you want to win the lottery playing DFS, play a single entry GPP game. Otherwise, just keep it to head-to-heads. Those are similar to the fantasy sports I remember playing growing up. It's just you versus another team. That's how a lot of season-long leagues are set up.
Yeah.
Play a head-to-head, play a double-up.
Well, and my strategy point for the week is not entirely that, but sort of a solution to that for the mid-level player, the guy that plays a little bit and is getting frustrated and doesn't want to drop out, but is also like, man, how am I ever going to win against that? And playing for $2 just isn't fun. And
Hmm.
this is DraftKings exclusive. FanDuel doesn't have this. But steps tournaments. I'm trying my first one this week. And essentially, what it is you do have to be a little patient because it takes 4 weeks for it to pay off. But a $2 entry gets you into step one. And you can always buy into a higher step. So you can buy into step two for $7 if you like, skip step one altogether. Um, but it's a 10-person tournament. So you're only playing against 10 people. I'm not sure if it's single entry or not, but it seems I would have to do the math to figure out if it's foolish to not do single entry. Um, but so positions one and two get a ticket to the next step up. So if you place first or second out of 10, you get a ticket to, it's essentially worth $7 to play a $7 contest. If you place three or four, you get another entry. You get a step one ticket. So you're at least getting another chance to play this tournament. Step two is $7, 10 people. Top two win a step three ticket, which is a $25 ticket if you're just buying in. And place three and four get another step two ticket. So they get another chance. So if you place in the top 40% of these lobbies, you continue to play. Step three is $25. Again, 10 people. Top two get a step four ticket. That's an $88 entry. So if you just want to buy into step four and try and turn 88 into 200, that's what you do. So step four, 6 people. Top two get $200. Number three gets another step four ticket. So it's an interesting sort of round robin where you can continue to play. Maybe, again, if you think that you are better than the average fantasy player, this is a place where you might actually find yourself against the average fantasy player. And you've got the chance to turn $2 into 200 in a much less competitive arena than the tournaments. And if you think about it, if you're playing those $2 tournaments every week and you're doing 4 or 5 entries, that's $10 a week that you're playing. Whereas with this step, if 2 of your initial 5 go on, you're building that up. So odds are much better. You're literally playing against 32 people over the life of that tournament, as opposed to playing against 3,000.
I like
So,
it. Now,
so I'm trying it out this week. I'll let you know how it goes.
in step four,
Hmm.
is it all people with tickets, or could I buy into step four if
No,
I
you
want to?
can still buy into step four.
You
It's
can buy into any of the
$88
steps.
to buy into.
It'd be
Um,
interesting to see how many of those people are tickets, and how many of those people paid to get in.
yeah,
Can
that
you
would be
can you
interesting.
tell?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if they'll release that information or if one of these fantasy sites will.
Hmm.
But yeah. So week 9 of the NFL,
Great.
Thursday, Browns at Bengals. We're gonna ignore that game.
Well, you have a
I'll
hot
tell you next
take.
week. I'll tell you next week. I don't want to give that hot
Just
take.
look on Twitter,
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be tweeting it at least after the game.
and you've
I have a
tweeted it
hot take.
today.
Yeah.
You've been
Oh, I did.
talking about it.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe so.
And Sunday, we have no London game to worry about.
No.
So we're going to have all the contests Sunday, starting with you always put the Vikings first. Such a homer.
Well,
Uh,
again, that's how ESPN has it set up.
oh, yeah.
Is that my team shows up at the top of the day?
And I've got, oh, you know what? I haven't done our lineups. So maybe we'll record our lineups separately.
Yeah.
But I do I've got a lot in this game that I like.
Okay.
I've created a new value system. I won't share the specifics of it with you yet, but Todd Gurley is still right on the cusp of a value play. Right on the cusp.
On FanDuel or DraftKings? Because on
Um,
FanDuel, I believe he's the most expensive right now. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's 8,500 and Devonta's 8,300. So not on FanDuel. Sorry, I forget about that. Is that right? Devonta's 8,300.
Oh no, I think he's like 9,000.
Okay, but
Todd
Devonta
Gurley
is
is
still
9,000. Devontae's 89.
yeah.
Expensive.
Yeah, so ignore him on FanDuel if you're looking for value, which I think that you can't ignore value. You essentially, this is going back to strategy, but you want to pay the lowest cost per point for the most points is what you're looking at. Because nobody's going to be able to start all the top point getters. So you got to find that balance. And
Well, if I have a Watson and an algorithm, and enough money, I can do that. I'll start one lineup that scores the most points. But I know what you're saying.
Well, no, but that lineup that scores the most points will not be because these things cost. So if you look at the
Yeah.
top point players, you can't plug them all in necessarily. If
Mm-hmm.
Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devonta Freeman, Todd Gurley, and Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, if that would be the ultimate fantasy lineup, you can't afford that.
Yeah,
So
I
you have
get
to
it.
find the one that you can afford that's going to produce the most in that VORP.
Yes.
All that to say, Gurley on DraftKings is still right in that VORP spot, so I like him. This has no basis in research, but Tavon Austin I've been really high on for a long time as a nice, cheap play still, though I hate Nick Foles, so it scares me. I like Austin because they hand off to him every once in a while. And then I would avoid Adrian Peterson. He does not show that value. His fantasy points per game is way down. He's just not producing. And that Rams defense, as we've discussed, is pretty stellar. However, Stephon Diggs continues to be underpriced. And everything I've heard, I read a insider report on best route runners and his route running efficiency, like how much he deviates from the route is like lower than anyone else in the league.
Okay. That's
So-
true. He looks great. Stephon Diggs is great, and is he the number one in Minnesota? Probably not. Mike Wallace has got that veteran presence that makes him the one, but Diggs is getting more targets. He's making more catches. Mike Wallace had a terrible week last week against the Bears. It was all about Diggs. And he had that last great score late in the game to tie it up, I believe. But the Rams have a really good defense, but I still am not going to shy away from Diggs. His price has gone up on FanDuel, at least. I see that he is around he's at 7,400 now. 3 weeks ago he was at 55, 54, maybe 57, less than 6. But he's looked well. I don't like the Vikings O-line still. Adrian Peterson had some good runs last week, but he wasn't consistent, and the O-line it's banged up. They're very inconsistent. They can run off some plays, they can give Teddy good pass protection, but they can't on a consistent basis. And that Rams D-line scares me. They've got a good front group, so I think they'll force the Vikings to pass a lot. Todd Gurley, the way he's playing, you can't look away from him. I'll probably fade again this week, though. I think 100 yards and a touchdown, but I don't think he's a top 3 running back this week, and it comes to scoring. So I'll probably stay away from Todd Gurley. The line is Minnesota minus 2.5. A lot of money is probably going to come in on the Rams. Over under 39.5, which is, I believe, one of the lower ones.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
see
very
this.
low.
I don't see this game being a super high scoring game. I'm a Vikings fan. I'm rooting for the Vikings. I'd probably take the Rams to win. What did you say? You mentioned Nick Foles. The good thing about Tavon Austin is that he doesn't need to throw it that far for Tavon Austin to be effective. Because
Exactly.
He's
And
gonna run.
we're not necessarily touchdowns are great, but if Todd Gurley gets 113 yards rushing, 3 receptions for 30 yards and 1 touchdown on DraftKings, that's worth it.
Yeah.
Same with Stephon Diggs at what is he 57, 56. If he can break 100 yards, with no touchdowns, he's actually still worth it. With the amount of receptions it would take to do that. If he can break that with a touchdown, he is a great value play. If you can get 20 points out of a guy that's 57, I'll take
Definitely take
or
it.
25 points.
So my play for the Rams would be Tavon Austin. I'm going to agree with you there. If you want to use the Rams defense, I think they could get some turnovers, some sacks. For the Vikings, I'll go with Diggs again. And that's probably about it. Although the Vikings defense has been good. They've looked really good, although they're kind of like their O-line. They've been inconsistent. They're watching the game on Sunday. The one thing I noticed is when the Vikings would pass rush Jay Cutler, they'd never have their hands up. They're always going for a sack. They're trying to go low. They're going to go legs. They're never running at him with their hands up, trying to block his field of vision, or at least maybe tip a pass or anything. And I just think that's a good strategy if you're a defensive lineman. Is get your hands up, knock that pass down. Don't give him a chance to throw. He was throwing with pressure and making
Yeah, but
passes.
you're talking better defense. We're talking what gets you points.
Sure, of
Knocking down
course.
passes doesn't actually get your defense
Of
points.
course,
So
I
you
know
want
that.
sacks and you want balls in the air for
So I'm saying that the
interceptions.
Vikings aren't doing that, and it'll give Nick Foles a chance to dump it off to Gurley
Mhm.
or Austin more than if there were a team that actually didn't knock passes down.
Mhm.
Let's hope they make that adjustment. You'd think Mike Zimmer would notice that.
This is the fan coming out.
Well, exactly.
Packers at Panthers. Packers at Panthers.
Yep, we're in
uh,
Carolina. Green Bay is favored -2.5. The over/under is 46.5.
is this the game that finally decides if everybody can believe in Cam Newton?
People believe in Cam Newton, don't they?
Well, yeah, but
I've
there's
always
still a
liked
lot
him.
of
Sure.
they've had the worst opponents out of all the
Yeah.
undefeateds. They've barely eked out a few of the victories against bad opponents.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think here?
This was an interesting game for me to look at, just because the Panthers have a good defense, but you saw Andrew Luck was able to throw a few touchdowns on Monday night against them.
Hmm.
They were able to keep him in the game. Packers had a terrible week. 77 passing yards, I believe, is what it was for Aaron Rodgers. It was bad.
77.
It's the second tough defense in a row. Packers are banged up in the receiving core. Eddie Lacy, is he back? Probably not. He looks fat. That's the joke everybody's making, is that Eddie Lacy's fat.
Hmm.
Although I guess they were always making that joke. But
So do you play any Packers? Who do you got?
they're contrarian plays for me this week. I'm not confident about anybody on the Packers.
James Jones.
You like no, not a. I'm going to recency bias you there and say I'm not even
That's
taking
exactly,
a look.
and that's
Yeah.
what it is. His fantasy points per game make him a huge steal right now,
Yeah.
especially because of both recency bias and
Yeah.
how that's been lowered by last week's 6.5 points or whatever it was.
I hear you though. James Jones is interesting. He's a consistent target for Rodgers.
Again, because of the cost.
Yes.
I mean, Cobb obviously is a star. Rodgers has been putting up decent numbers until this last week, but I don't think that versus the other stars and their potential, OBJ, Julio Jones this week.
Tom Brady. Why just go Tom Brady
Yeah.
for? He is a little bit more expensive on FanDuel. 8,900 for Rodgers, 95 for Tom Brady. But if I'm paying up for the quarterback, I'm just going to go Tom Brady.
Yeah, but I still think James Jones has some potential, and then I don't know. I actually don't necessarily trust the Packers against the Panthers against the Packers D, and they've all gone up in price just a little bit. Ted Ginn, I like his heart, but even last week he had what was it, a dropped pass that would have been a easy touchdown. You run into these things. So since we're not picking games, we're trying to pick fantasy. I really avoid this game except for James Jones if I need a wide receiver or a flex. If I'm going really big in my lineups and I need a cheap guy with a lot of upside, I'm not afraid of James Jones.
I like Jonathan Stewart again against a Packers defense that is giving up 4.7 yards per carry, 124.4 yards on the ground. Stewart is getting the work. He's gotten more than 20 carries in his last 3 games. Last week he had 24 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. You keep Aaron Rodgers off the field by running. I think he gets 20 plus carries this week, and he can do better against the Green Bay defense than he did against the Colts defense. So at 6,600 on FanDuel, I really like Jonathan Stewart this week.
That's not a bad price on FanDuel. It's hard to find a good, reliable option below 7,000. Sometimes I feel at running back.
Yeah. So that's my play.
All right. So
We'll move
Washington at Patriots, the biggest over. I think the over actually went up since we did this yesterday to 52.5.
Yeah. Just for
The
the
over.
record here, I'm using ESPN's line and over-unders. I know they're not. I'll hear different lines from
okay.
other sources, and
Yeah.
then I also wrote these up on Tuesday night. So these lines are all going to change probably.
Yeah. But everybody's saying it's the biggest game. I don't know. Here's my tournament play. One of my 3 tournament plays. Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Ridiculously cheap.
I see it.
And
They'll probably
again,
be from
is he
behind.
gonna have to be passing the whole time, or are they just gonna fold like the Dolphins? I mean, think about it. The Dolphins should have done better in that game than they did.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of that was conference and the
Thursday, you have
weather
3 days
and
to prepare.
Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday games are so
Um,
dumb. I don't like Thursday
granted,
games.
granted, now we've almost got Patriots treating this almost like a bye week. I mean, because they played on Thursday,
Yeah.
so they got to spend Friday probably off, maybe watch tape on Friday and then spend
Well,
Saturday off.
Gronk was on Stephen Colbert on Friday, so yeah, he was just
Yeah,
having fun.
there you go.
Promoting Halo.
And then actually watching all the games on Sunday, or at least watching the Redskins game
Yeah.
directly, you know. And so the question is, can you afford any of them?
Any of the Patriots?
Yeah,
Sure, I have a Brady lineup right here. And
they boosted Dion Lewis's cost just a little, so that he's right on the cusp of my value formula, points per But
play I like is Danny Amendola for 5,300 on FanDuel. Danny Amendola has been seeing his role increase as of late. Granted, against Miami, he only had one reception for 11 receiving yards, so he's kind of boomer bust. But the 2 weeks before that, he had 15 receptions for over just under 200 yards and a touchdown, 14 points, 18 points.
I also read an expert who was saying this might be the LeGarrette Blunt game. Get up high enough ahead, early enough, pound it with Blunt against Washington. Early game in Washington, a little bit cold.
It's in New England.
In New England, a little bit cold, you know. But do you also ever expect Belichick to go conservative? But he's only 4,800. So again, that could be another good tournament flex. Some upside there. Probably not played by as many other people. And Edelman also still 8,200 on DraftKings. Still not horrible. He hasn't had a breakout since like week 2 or 3.
Last week.
Did he last week? How much did he?
2 touchdowns. I know that for Julian Edelman is $8,000 this week, and he had 7 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, 23.6 points.
Yeah, see, 23.6 though. It's still well. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's what Brandon Cooks scored last week for you.
And he was cheaper. Yeah.
AJ Green scored 31. You know, OBJ scored 7,000. So you know, it's up there. But that means that maybe this is the week he does. Maybe this is the week he justifies that valuation. You know, because
He
you
very
can
well
only get
could.
that many targets that long. And I'm starting Gronk if something else works out. There's an injury that we'll get to later. I'm starting Gronk if something else works out.
Okay.
So yeah.
Anything
And
else to say on this game? Yeah.
no, let's just avoid the Redskins altogether.
Yeah.
Jordan Reed's not a bad value.
I like Jordan Reed too.
but
He gets targeted when he plays, and he can make plays.
Titans. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Titans at Saints. Now recency bias. Drew Brees
I-
shot up price wise.
Yep. He's going to cost a lot.
Would have set the NFL record if they hadn't gotten that face mask penalty. Did you see how that game ended last week with the Giants?
No, I don't remember it.
It was going into overtime.
Yeah.
Whatever. The Giants had the ball with like 50 seconds left, couldn't quite run out the clock, punted, gave up like 17 yards on the return, and then the punter face masked the return guy on the
Oh,
tackle.
yeah, I do remember that. Yep.
And so they went for a 51-yard field goal as time expired, and they got it.
Yeah,
and,
they did.
Sort of blew my mind because I was expecting that game to go into overtime and the Saints to air it out and him to get his 8th touchdown.
Yeah, that'd been great.
Really looked like overtime there. So a lot of people that were already blessed with OBJ and Eli Manning were pissed that they didn't get more. Greedy fools.
Yep, like me.
I would have been one, though.
Yeah, exactly. So this week it's the Saints are hosting the Titans. You got to like plays on both sides, though. You saw how many points the Saints gave up. The only problem is that the Tennessee is not nearly as good of an offense as New York.
Yeah. Who, David Cobb?
Yeah, sure.
Marcus Mariota?
Although,
I mean, you like Kendall Wright because of his skill, his talent, his after the catch ability.
Sure. I don't know if I put my stamp of approval on any one pick. I like Delaney Walker. I think he's good to fit into lineups. He's cheap on FanDuel. He's a good safety valve for Mariota. Now is
I mean,
Mariota coming back?
I'm pretty sure he is.
That's what I thought
Stay
too.
tuned for that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he is. I will say again, this is 6,500 on DraftKings. Mark Ingram, Kyrie Robinson went out with a really sadly season-ending injury.
Yeah,
We
broke
saw
his
way
leg.
too many of those this week.
Ugh.
But so Ingram, if they go up, if they are ahead, you can expect them to pound the ball with Ingram.
I like
You know,
Ingram a lot for 7,700 on FanDuel.
I feel like Sean Payton's the kind of weird coach where even though he is aggressive, after a game like last week, if they're up, he will go conservative against a team like the Titans.
That's a good point.
You know, so Ingram 77 on FanDuel, I think,
He's
6,500 on.
6,500 on DraftKings, 77 on FanDuel.
So you need him to have a good day in order to justify that. Almost a bit of a risk there, but yeah.
We're clicking around. I mean,
Dolphins at Bills.
Dolphins at Bills. I will say, I bet you're going to see a lot of highly owned Saints this week because of the recency bias.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Snead,
jump.
Watson.
Yep. Cooks.
Snead looked amazing.
So, yeah, they all did. They all looked
Cooks
great.
looked like he didn't look amazing. He looked average,
But
like
Breeze made him look good.
in the sense of like, well, yeah, just
Yeah.
like he was playing against a kid is what it looked like. Like he didn't have to do anything spectacular. He just beat his guy
Yeah.
multiple times, had perfect balls thrown to him. So he might be undervalued just because people aren't as excited about him as they are about Snead. But he's still the number one there.
Easily.
Colston got somebody somewhere that plugged Colston into the flex, placed in their tournament.
They did well. Yeah, we'll move on. Dolphins at Bills. Buffalo is favored -3. The over-under is 44.
Yep. And this is the fantasy value play of the week right here, brought to you by Ivan. This is the Nate Washington of this week. For the value, plug your roster full of receivers, running backs, tight ends, and play Tyrod Taylor.
You like Tyrod?
5,100 coming
Okay.
back. He could have played against Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. Then he had a bye week. Now he's back in there. He's ready to go. He's got legs, so weather isn't even an issue. Cold weather isn't a huge issue. It's just for the price, given his points per game, and all the upside, and the likelihood that he's not owned by that many people, because still too many people haven't realized the quarterbacks cost as much, and they don't produce as much. Unless you get a Drew Brees 7-touchdown game and Eli Manning 6-touchdown game, which happens once. When have we
Once a
ever had
year.
13 touchdowns in a game?
It's been a while.
13 passing touchdowns?
College games.
Yeah.
In weird conferences.
So don't bank on your quarterback. Quarterback is where you want a consistent 20 to 25 points. Go big on the receivers and running backs and play Tyrod Taylor this week.
Yeah, it's a great play. I'll mention that I have him in a season-long league. Actually, both of them. So I have to play him in those leagues. The Dolphins are coming off of a 10-day bye, sort of like the Patriots. It's their second game on the road before they're back home. I can't remember who they play after that. It's a division game. Over-under is 44. Do you think they're scoring that many points?
I do.
Yeah.
Because,
I like
the Dolphins, high-powered offense. I still believe in them.
I believe in the Dolphins' offense, too. That's what I was going to say. They have a lot of weapons. I really like Rashard Matthews as the play that nobody's making on that team. Everybody's going to Landry. A lot of people are using Lamar Miller. But I really like Rashard Matthews. I think he runs some good routes. He's got good after-the-catch ability. He's got good catching abilities. They have Devontae Parker as their rookie, but I don't think he'll play. I've been hearing that he's been practicing but not ready yet. I guess I can't tell you if he played last week. I didn't watch that game. I could easily look at a box score, but I'm not going to. So Rashard Matthews is my play that I like a lot, but I like everybody on the Dolphins. I think
Tannehill's not bad at 7,400. I mean,
that's not a bad
Bortles
play.
Bortles made that Buffalo defense look horrible,
Yeah.
and he's Bortles, so
Hmm.
a little expensive of a quarterback, but I
Bills
do
have
think they'll put up points.
the Bills have a good front line, so if that scares you away from Lamar Miller, I can see how it would. I'm not rushing to put Lamar Miller in any of my
Well, he's
lineups,
questionable too,
and he
so
is
we got to keep an eye
questionable.
on that.
Yeah, but they
Uh,
did it. Yeah.
he's
So
actually cheaper.
who's Tyrod throwing the ball to, or is he getting all of his points on the ground running?
Um, see that now that Charles Clay might see an increase, he might see his value return after
Mm-hmm.
being sort of off the charts, off the radar. He's only 4,200 in DraftKings. Um, he is 5,700 in FanDuel. Um, but then, Robert Woods, you got those three other guys I don't know. Sammy Watkins, I don't even know if he's playing. I'd have to look. I didn't look at this game too closely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I trust, it's one of those, actually, honestly, if I were playing my hunches, I would avoid this because I don't like this team. I don't like his options.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers tell me don't be a fan, be a fantasy football player.
That's right. Even
So,
though fan is in fantasy.
yeah, fanatic,
Mm-hmm.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Which one is fan really short for? All right. Speaking of
I just
fanatic,
want to say quickly,
fantasy.
Richard Matthews is
Oh,
$4,500 on DraftKings, and he is 6,500 on FanDuel. So he's much better
mhm.
play on DraftKings.
And as a number two, again, going back to the last game, Alan Hearns did not put up the points he should have because he dropped three passes that were amazing as the number two for the Jaguars. So I forget who the Bills have at secondary, but if you're looking at matchups, I back you on that Rashard Matthews play.
Great.
So speaking of the Jaguars,
We're moving on.
everyone,
Yeah,
Blake Bortles, TJ Yeldon, make an all Jags lineup.
against the
Uh,
Jets, who looked bad in Oakland.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are a team that can unravel easily, and losing your starting quarterback and having to go to Geno Smith, I think, affected the defense as well in Oakland. It's the Oakland dog pound or whatever it's called. I know Browns is the dog pound, but
Hmm.
it's a scary place.
It's a
Um,
bad, yeah, the Oakland Coliseum. It's a
yeah.
terrible stadium. They
Uh,
have sewage issues.
oh, doesn't
So
surprise me.
yeah, while they're getting ready for the game, they smell human waste, and at halftime and after the game. So that can bring you down, I
Yeah,
think. I make you
but
play like crap.
um,
Pun intended.
Price, I like Bortles. Also, yeah, he had the bye week to prepare.
Yep.
We'll see if that actually matters.
Okay.
I'm a fan of Bortles, though. I need to couch things that way. But he falls into that 5,000 to 5,500 value quarterback that I like. Um, and not trying to rush, but again, the Jets, until we know, I mean, a healthy Fitzpatrick, yes, I like him. An unhealthy Fitzpatrick playing, I don't like him. A Geno Smith playing, I don't like him. Questionable Brandon Marshall, I don't like him. Even a slightly banged up Eric Decker, who is not getting any attention on that because people need him and like him.
He's
I
great.
don't like him. Um, I I'm scared. I'm scared. He's knocking on the back door.
I will say that if you're thinking of just plugging Chris Ivory into lineups, the numbers say that Jacksonville is the best defense in yards per attempt allowed at 3.5, although they are giving up 103.6 yards on the ground per game. But just looking at those numbers, I guess I'd have to look at some tape to see how good their run defense is. And you've watched enough Jags to maybe know this, but Ivory isn't an obvious play for me this week, even though I really like Chris Ivory. I liked him last week too. He didn't do that great, but what
Yeah,
do you
I'm
think?
not a huge believer in the Jags defense. Some of their numbers are inflated by having gone against EJ Manuel.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that changed everything in their favor.
Hmm.
It's like the Broncos against Aaron Rodgers, like that was EJ Manuel's stat line that week. So that takes away some of the rushing game. Plus, I think their backs were all banged up in that game. So I'm not entirely away from him, but he just his going back to my system. He doesn't fit my system,
Yep.
and I don't trust that game very much. I wouldn't wager it to win either team, but I like Bortles for the cost and for the fact that he's been putting up big numbers.
Okay.
And next, Bortles contemporary, Derek Carr, same draft, starting Raiders, Raiders at Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell out for the season. I'm just gonna keep saying stuff. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, good value there.
I like Amari Cooper too. He's been playing really well. He gets the targets. Derek Carr is very cheap on DraftKings, 5,500.
Hmm.
The Steelers are currently giving up a fairly. This is some good dead air. A 93.3 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks. 270 yards through the air. What do you see? The over/under is at 48. What are you taking, the over or the under? You think they're scoring all those points? And if
Um,
they do, that could mean some good run for Derek Carr and the Oakland receivers. Same for Roethlis and his receivers with Le'Veon Bell out. Although D'Angelo Williams was just fine replacing him
mhm.
in those early weeks. But I'd still would lean more toward the Steelers passing game getting more of the attention, especially in fantasy. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
are going to be on Roethlisberger. Sorry, go ahead.
well, I was going to say someone that fits into my value system this week, Martavius Bryant. It seems like people still don't want to believe in his numbers, just like Stephon Diggs. He's right around the same price. I think 5,500 in DraftKings and averaging 16 to 17 points a game. Um, or it might be more than that. Now I'm just screwing up everything. I'm trying not to use my cell phone because it creates a buzz, but that's the one that
Mm-hmm.
actually gives me the FPPG when I look it up.
Oh, do you have an app for that?
Well, no, it's just in the lineup thing, and my browser doesn't go fast enough. And
I see.
these are the fun things that come up here. So let's look at Martavis Bryant. Sorry, 19.7 points per game at 5,500. That's a good deal to me. Again, that's right with Stephon Diggs, 5,300 at 21.5 points per game. Some ridiculous value there. So I really like that. Brown is good too, especially with Roethlisberger back. He's at 8,100 though, so that's kind of like that AJ Green sort of fan feel. Like, do you want him? Do you like him? Do you want to root for him? Plug him in.
Mm-hmm.
And Williams isn't a bad running back option either,
He's going to
except
be
that
cheap.
I feel like this is going to be a high scoring game. We could also see some defensive scoring here though too, because again, high risk, high reward. Roethlisberger feeling the pressure to, really after losing again last week. It's like this is kind of a do or die game for them.
D'Angelo Williams is 5,500 on DraftKings. Jonathan Stewart is 4,300. Jonathan Stewart's a really great play this week. I just talked about him earlier, but that's not a bad price for D'Angelo Williams, 5,500. He'll get the work, but will he score touchdowns?
Yeah, recency bias. I've got a
Yeah.
lineup. I've got a lineup that's going to kill this week. And so
Okay.
when I got guys that aren't in it, like D'Angelo Williams, and you point out Jonathan Stewart's cheaper, I think that there's some big plays that you want to do this week. So I avoid that. I
Yeah.
avoid these middle of the road guys, unless they have a huge upside like Stephon Diggs. Or in this game, I do like Martavius Bryant for that. And Roethlisberger has an upside too because he could throw 4 touchdowns and he's only 6,600. So he's cheaper than Tannehill. Cheaper than Breeze. He's not a bad play.
We'll move on. We're into the afternoon games now, where we have our first of we have 3 afternoon games, one Sunday evening and a Sunday night. Giants at Buccaneers.
Oh, and this is where things become good for fantasy football players.
Yep.
So because they have to put out the lineups on Tuesday for the next week, you have situations like a tight end who's been out and then been questionable, and they haven't released an injury report yet this week. Watch Twitter. Watch pregame. Be ready to swap out your lineups. Don't play him in Thursday FanDuel lineups unless you're a big risk taker. Austin Seferian Jenkins for the Buccaneers. He is putting up Antonio Gates numbers when he plays, which is only the first 2.5 weeks of the season. Was out 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury, and we're looking at the 6 week side of that now. But that's okay with me. They took their time. And I think that means that he will play this week, even though there's been no word whatsoever. And he's 2,800, averaging 16 points per game,
2,800 on DraftKings.
averaging 18 points per game on DraftKings. 2,800. How do you not play that against the 32nd ranked tight end defense, the Giants? And update today, participated in practice today.
Well, there you go.
He returned to practice last Wednesday for the first time, but did limited showings and was not active Sunday. So watch that very closely.
I like Safarian Jenkins. I used him in one of those good weeks, although in a head-to-head against my cousin. But still, he helped me win. He helped me win money. I like the play. I like Doug Martin, even though the Giants' defense is considered decent against the run. Well, 4.1 yards per carry, 112 yards per game on the ground. The thing about Doug Martin is he gets the work. He gets a ton of work. Week 2, 21 carries. Week 3, 14 carries. Week 4, 20 carries, 24 carries, 19, 23. He's getting plenty of work. Tampa Bay wants to run. They want to take pressure off of Jameis Winston so he can throw those good passes on play action to Safarian Jenkins. I like Doug Martin a lot. 5,700 on DraftKings. He is 7,100 on FanDuel.
I can't argue that.
I like the play.
We're also looking at an over-under of 47.5 right now, and I don't think that'll be all the Giants. I think the Giants have a history of, you always see that Eli Manning face in the fourth quarter. They also do a great job of pulling out wins, but the Buccaneers have an aggressive defense, and Quan Alexander, his brother just died. He went to the funeral. He's going to the funeral on Saturday and then coming back for the game on Sunday, and he had a monster game. He actually had a third turnover. He had 2 turnovers recorded, I think, but the third one that was nullified by a penalty somewhere else on the field. But yeah, so I think the Buccaneers defense will be similar to how the Eagles defense manhandled the Giants. So I think that a lot of that scoring will come from the Buccaneers side. That said, the Giants will be airing it out. Both Eli and Odell are good plays this week, though Eli's a little expensive.
If I'm paying up for a receiver, I'm paying up for Odell Beckham. Tampa Bay is league worst in passer rating allowed with 111.5 per game. Eli's a great play. Again, recency bias is going to have him in a lot of lineups. So I'll try to find a different quarterback, but I also think Odell will be in a lot of lineups. But since he is so expensive, maybe people will be trying to find value.
See, that's the thing. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I see a lot of recency. I think that this is a place where that might not occur because people will think other people are doing it.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm way overthinking it, but I think people will be like, "Oh, he's that expensive, and everybody's going to play him." And he's only that expensive because of last week. Because last week was every touchdown was to him. Mm-hmm. But I like to think that Tom Coughlin realized. I mean, you saw it. He 2 drives in a row. He was pounding the ball, trying to get it in, and couldn't. And then both times, one was on 4th down, and then the next one was on 3rd down. They said, "Oh, okay, let's try and pass it from the 1-yard line." He knows that he has to go to Beckham in that situation. I think he learned last week. He showed that he learned last week that in the goal line they have to pass, which was something that was hurting them previously.
Yeah. So I really like Beckham. And if you want to play their other receivers, you can go ahead and do that. We both don't like Larry Donnell.
Yeah. Dwayne Harris I like him a lot. He still has yet to show the overall numbers, but he's a really fun little outlet at that cheap cost.
I'd say look to Giants. If you want some value receivers, some value cheap receivers, look at the Giants. Look at the Giants. We're going to move on. It's our second.
We're going to go to Devonta Freeman versus the 49ers.
Devonta Freeman and Julio Jones versus the 49ers.
That's true.
Over-under's 45. Atlanta is minus 7.5 is the line. The only 49er I'll probably be playing is Phil Dawson, and I don't like the play. But that's the only player worth considering that you'd start from that team, right?
Yeah. Blaine Gabbert? You're not into Blaine Gabbert? Colin
So
Kaepernick is benched. They got rid of Vernon Davis. Stay away from this team.
yeah,
Dumpster fire.
They really are 2-6 too. Are they Are they gonna have the number one pick?
I don't know. They might. They might be trying for it.
I think they should.
I don't follow college enough to know if it's worth it this year.
That usually is. You either trade out or you take an elite player.
Yeah.
And they've shown to draft really, really well. So if they have anything going for them, it's their scouting. I think they always find guys.
Yeah.
And then those guys retire after 1 year because they don't want to risk their brains.
Yeah.
Good on you, Chris Borland. So yeah, Falcons, Devontae Freeman, load him up, play him.
I like it.
Julio
They're going to be
Jones,
up. They're going to go to him.
the most
Julio
expensive
Jones, I like
player,
it too.
as the most expensive player on both sides.
I have Julio Jones in multiple lineups this week.
Yep.
I have him and Devonta Freeman. I don't think there will be much more action there, so I actually don't like any of the other receivers or Jacob Tamme, who I was high on last week and who did deliver last week.
Great play.
But I see the Falcons again last week. Did you see multiple fumbles? They lost the game just because of mistakes, and I think that the center is going to get a whooping this week. From whoever that young coach is there.
Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. And you can't lose this many bounces against you, and so I am still high on the Falcons.
Yeah.
I may drive my life and my wallet into the ground because of this, but I am high on the Falcons this week, especially against the whack job 49ers. They have to start not having red zone turnovers.
Yeah.
Two or three last week. I can't remember exactly how many, but 2 or 3 red zone turnovers.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's like 3 weeks in a row where that happened to them.
Speaking of another team that's bad at turning the ball over.
Oh,
we're in Indy.
man, you were so low on this team watching that game this week.
Broncos, Colts. I had a luck.
He was texting me the whole time. Luck is just horrible. Both the last 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago I played luck. This week he's having trouble, Andrew.
Yeah, but he gets those backdoor covers.
Yeah,
he throws
sure
he's the new Eli Manning. Fourth quarter, it's like, oh, okay, now we need 17 points. I'll go get it.
Yep, and he did. Moncrief got a TD, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And who?
Wasn't it like a back or somebody?
I can't remember. Oh, Andre Johnson caught one.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So Broncos and Colts, Denver -5, over-unders at 45.
I know who you like, and he looked good last week.
I don't have him in a lineup currently, but yeah, I like Ronnie Hillman if you're going to play the Broncos running game. Although C.J. Anderson, he did rush for over 100 yards. He had the long run. He had a touchdown.
Yeah, part of it was that the 26-yard touchdown really helped him.
That's what did it. Yeah, if he doesn't have that, Hillman's obviously the better.
And that was an impressive run. It was like a hey guys, don't forget about me run.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree with you watching that game. Manning likes Hillman. He likes having Hillman in there. And 4,600 on DraftKings. I'll take him. I'll run him. I'll enjoy that. He's a bit of a security pick for me, but I'm not afraid of it. I like it. Do avoid. I don't. Everybody's all like Vernon Davis is going to go crazy. He is, but wait till next week.
I was going to say, yeah, he needs time in a Peyton Manning offense.
Yeah.
Anybody just going right into a Peyton Manning offense. Although you do like to see, I saw Owen Daniels did get some targets last week, and he caught some passes. So I like Vernon's future on the Denver Broncos quite a bit. But again, I'm not playing him this week unless I'm trying to, because a lot of people will be playing him this week, and this will be the dud week. And next week you'll hope for some recency bias. His percentage of ownership is down a little bit more, and then that's the week he catches 2 touchdowns for 100 yards or.
I also do like, against this vaunted Broncos defense, I like Frank Gore on the cheap. Mainly because I think this is getting into a coach's head, but I think Pagano, I think that he is going to want to pound the ball to try and prove them wrong. Just like he tried to outthink Bill Belichick, I feel like he's going to want to try and be like, no, Broncos, we can move the ball, we can control the ball. And take a little pressure off of Andrew Luck at the same time.
I'm not playing any Colts.
Oh, also the Broncos D still statistically in value, even though I think they're the most expensive or one of the most expensive. They are still a value play because they put up that many statistics.
The Broncos on DraftKings are 3,000. They
Yeah, which
are,
actually is not
yeah,
near the most expensive. The most expensive, I think,
eighth.
is yeah. So that's a really great play.
A lot of people will be on them, but it's still I like to play too, especially at that
Uh,
price. Damn.
so Sunday night, Eagles at Cowboys.
Yeehaw.
Oh God, I didn't even prep for this game. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
Well, no,
We
I
don't
don't
have to
like.
worry about Joseph Randle.
No. Finally, we're done with him. Eagles minus 2.5. Over unders 44.5. Tony Romo's not going to be back. You don't like Matt Castle, do you?
Nope.
No.
I
Yeah.
always like Darren Sproles just because,
Especially in
again, this is
primetime game. And
yeah,
go ahead.
3,800.
Yeah.
Well, and this is just perception. This is watching games and perceiving things. Um, he has a rapport with Chip Kelly. He is a well liked like he's every year. Oh, he's too old now. Oh, he's too old. And then you just see he gets 7 or 8 dump off passes a game and 7 or 8 carries in long yardage situations where he gets them 7 or 8 yards. To augment the other 8 carries where he gets 2 yards. I I believe in him very much. It's just a matter of he's right at that point where he does need to get in the goal line to make him worthwhile. But if he gets in the goal line once, he's golden at 3,800. Um,
How about
and everybody's
DeMarco
afraid because
Murray?
there's so many targets there that people are afraid of DeMarco Murray 6,400. What is Ryan Matthews? Matthews is slow loading internet. Matthews. Um, but yeah, so it's like, oh, I don't want to go with him, or there's Jordan Matthews, or there's Zach Ertz.
Ryan Matthews is
So many
56,
targets.
56 on FanDuel for Ryan Matthews.
So he's probably like 5 or 48 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm looking.
It's very rare. Oh, that's the other thing about Devonta Freeman he's cheaper on FanDuel. Devonta Freeman, this is going back a bit, but oh my gosh, he's cheaper than Todd Gurley on FanDuel, even though he's averaging 5 or 6 more points per game.
Who?
Devonta Freeman,
Hmm.
as you pointed out.
Yeah.
Gurley was the most expensive running back there.
Ryan Matthews is 3,700 on DraftKings.
Okay, so Matthews has actually gone below Sproles on DraftKings, which just backs up what I'm saying.
How about Devontae Freeman against his former team in Dallas? Do you put any stock into
DeMarco
that?
Murray?
Yeah.
I don't because there's still that weird thing with him coming out of the shotgun, and it just doesn't fit his running style. And he does
Like Adrian.
good, but yeah, it's just weird that they're doing that with him. So I don't not and I don't do.
Yeah,
I'm very middling on that one.
that's fine.
But I like Sproles.
Yeah. Anybody in Dallas? Their kicker, he's the most accurate. I don't think he's missed this year.
No,
Whatever
who
his
was my
name
kicker?
is.
I gotta remember. I forgot to even talk about kicker, but I have a kicker going.
Dan Bailey. Yeah, Dan Bailey would be my play for Dallas.
Upcoming kicker. Oh, I went with Connor Barth at kicker and Robbie Gold at kicker. So
Let's move
yeah.
on to that next game and talk
Robbie
about
Gold.
Robbie
Yep.
Gold because
Monday night.
yeah,
There's your kicker love, Robbie Gold.
Bears
He's
at
actually
Chargers.
pretty cheap.
He is. He's $4,600. San Diego -4 is the line. Over under is 49 points, so it's a good, nice total.
It's going to be a huge game.
I think so too, in terms of scoring and for
I've got
fantasy.
a lot going on
impact.
here.
Me too. You get your piece of Monday night. If you think kicker's a crapshoot and you don't know who to pick the Monday night kicker. You can leapfrog people. All those people have 0 PMR. You can jump ahead of them if Robbie Gould scores a point, hopefully.
Yeah.
So that
Well, not only that, but I mean, this whole game is just
Yeah.
Chargers have one of the worst pass defenses. Bears have a pretty significantly poor pass defense. And yet you've got Alshon Jeffrey coming off of 2 of the hottest weeks ever. I think that he's gotten, it was 35 targets over the last 2 weeks. And Julio Jones or something. I don't know. He's got more than Julio Jones averages over just the past 2 weeks.
Yep, his touchdown catch was really impressive too.
And he's still
Last week.
6,900 in FanDuel. No, 7,900 in FanDuel, 6,700 in DraftKings. Unbelievably cheap.
Yeah,
If you're not playing Alshon Jeffrey this week, you're a moron.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Alshon Jeffrey quite a bit. Now, would you
If you're
play
listening to
Cutler?
my advice, you're a moron. I would play Cutler because again, he's cheap. He's in that 5-5 range on
Hmm.
DraftKings. Um, so I would play Cutler. I have him 5,200. So he's actually
71 on FanDuel.
cheaper than Bortles.
Hmm.
Cheaper than Bortles. The question is, and the other cheap guy that everyone's going to play. So, and there's the other problem. Everyone's going to play these guys. Jeremy Langford.
Let's hear about him.
We don't have a baseline for him if he is actually valued. We have a feeling he looked good in the fourth quarter, um, and they like him. He's young, he's fresh, and he's starting, and he's cheap. He's still cheap. So there's that. We know that Bennett is another favored target. So how do you not like any of these guys? And then flipping the script, Chargers. Philip Rivers, another great consistent game last week. Like I said, he got me 24 points in one. I think he got me 26 in DraftKings. I actually had him in a few of those lineups that we didn't discuss that did win. Um, and then you've got a cheap Stevie Johnson because Keenan Allen is out. You've got a cheap Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is, I'm big on tight ends this week. Gates, Seferian Jenkins, and Gronkowski. If Seferian Jenkins is out, I automatically adjust all my lineups to play Gates. If Seferian Jenkins is in, I play Gronkowski in the flex.
Okay.
So that's how that goes. But you got to like all of them. And then Danny Woodhead, recency bias. Again, super cheap. He had 5 points last week. I know we recommended him. I apologize to anybody that lost money on that.
I
But I'm
played him
recommending him
in
again.
both of my head-to-heads and got lucky that I
It's-
beat Ivan. But
Yeah.
Ivan was the only person I beat because Woodhead wrecked me in my double ups and my tournaments. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I'm high on him again. It's super cheap, super high fantasy points per game. I don't think Melvin Gordon showed us anything to be afraid of last week. And I think that this is the second highest over under 49, right behind Patriots. It's at San Diego. So we're talking decent weather, even though it's freaking chilly here. It's like 67 degrees and I'm bundled up right now.
yeah.
So sorry. I've talked about every guy and that I like every guy.
I feel the same as you. I think there's a lot of value to be had all over this game. If you like San Diego against that Bears defense that you can throw on, they have playmakers though on defense, but they're young. They're young playmakers. They're going to be inconsistent. Same thing
Inman.
goes. Yeah, same thing goes for the Bears offense. I feel
Dontrell
this-
Inman is $3,000. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all
I
right.
just saw that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Keenan Allen out.
Yeah,
Malcolm Floyd, 3,900.
yeah. Malcolm Floyd becomes
How
a
do you not-
very nice play. This
How is your
week.
roster not 8 of these guys and one other guy?
Yeah, you can spend big and toss those guys into your lineup to spend big elsewhere, and I like the play. In fact, I'll need to write those into my Fantasy Pros article this week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, those are the games this week. We don't have our head-to-head set up yet.
Yeah, I like doing the lineup separately, though. A little
I do.
15-minute blurb.
I do too, and we'll do that on Friday or Saturday. Now, I'm going to be in the state of Arizona this weekend at a fantasy baseball conference. First Pitch Arizona. I'm sure some of you have
fun.
heard about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Are you going to wear your Full Duel shirt?
I sure will. The only problem is that the state of Arizona bans daily fantasy sports, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to go in and enter contests while I'm there. I read something today that said one of the sites finds your IP, and if you're from an IP in that state,
I've
you
heard
can't do
that.
anything. So
I've heard that.
we'll lock these lineups in, and what I'm going to do is I'll send you the invites with the lineup already locked,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I can't touch it while I'm there, oh well.
Okay.
It'll be my lineup locked tonight or tomorrow, whenever I send it along. So good. Well, yeah, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. That's pretty good for episode 3.
Yeah. And we've been active on Twitter, so make sure you follow us there at Fool Duel, Duel. We got some fun stuff coming up, some fun promotions, hopefully. This week was a little hectic for me. As you can see, I moved into a new office space, and so I'm hoping next week to reach out to some people and maybe have some fun freebies.
Great.
So follow us now, though.
Yeah.
so that you can be experienced by the time those freebies come to fruition.
Exactly. Get on that ground floor.
Yeah.
That's the best floor to be on.
Yeah. So, all
Great.
right. Signing off.
Great.